Africa Link.
Ghana is no longer just tightening the screws, it's cracking the whip. In a decisive shift, the West African nation is ramping up its war on drug trafficking with sweeping reforms, high-stakes arrests, and an uncompromising stance that's shaking up the region. From airport seizures to international busts, the urgency of the situation is loud and clear. The game has changed, and Ghana is no longer a soft target. But what's fueling this aggressive crackdown, and what does it mean for the country's image on the global stage? Let's dig into the story behind the headlines. Stay tuned. My name is Josephine Mahachi. Welcome to Africa Link, the podcast that is dedicated to keeping you informed about the stories that matter from Africa.
Africa Link, every weekday here on DW.
Ghana's new government has declared zero tolerance against drug trafficking. It says the country will no longer be used as a transit for drugs. Recently, a massive consignment of opioid drugs was impounded at the Tema harbor, allegedly destined for Niger. A similar arrest was made by the National Investigation Bureau, NIB, of cocaine with a street value of $350,000 days after. Many international agencies, including the U.S. Department of State, listed Ghana as a transit point for opioid drugs from South Africa and Asia to other parts of the world, including Europe and America. Now, in today's podcast, we ask how this West African nation got saddled with drugs. To discuss this, I have Peter Mintir Amadu, a researcher and clinical psychologist in Tamale, and also DW correspondent covering Northern Ghana, Maxwell Suuk. I'll start with you, Maxwell, as our reporter on the ground, and you've also been monitoring this social canker. How accessible is it to get these drugs in Ghana?
Accessibility to drugs is very common. In my area, you can get it as cheap as you get granules in the markets. They sell it in the alleys, they sell it in houses, they sell it in... Somebody might just be walking with a small bag, but then the person is selling drugs. So this is how it is. It's not really something difficult to get drugs. Recently, we were filming some addicts who then we wanted to see how easy they get the drugs. In less than 5 minutes, they came back with the drug. And it was such something that, and they filmed themselves actually. The people were just sitting in group talking, not in the shop, not in the drugstore. Then they know the people who are selling them. So it's easy for you to get drugs in Ghana. The other part of it is that you have people, the way they sell it is like a network of people. So for instance, somebody might even be selling provisions and have these drugs in it. Somebody might be selling clothing and have drugs in it. Somebody might be selling something unrelated, but then you go in just to evade the possibility of being a suspect, like maybe any food stuff, but then they can be having the drugs as part of what they do. So those who take them knows where to get them. In that way, they're able to, beat the intelligence of police and law enforcement agencies like narcotics control or the pharmaceutical council.
Right. Now, I started with you, Maxwell, and it's also going to help Peter answer this because, Peter, you were part of a team that researched on domestic substance abuse in northern Ghana. Some of these findings that Maxwell just mentioned, were they also part of your findings? And also, if you can tell us your own findings when you took this research or when you did this research.
Thank you for this opportunity to throw more light on our research that has actually gained notification in our environment. Because at the time we published that document, we were saying that the substance abuse in the northern part of Ghana, the realities of our time, And many people were like, what do you mean by those realities? Something that is now with us, and people are like, oh, meaning you saw something we're not seeing. Yeah, so what Maxwell the picture he has painted is the exact. So when it comes to access, it's just like he has painted. Many of the areas where you expect that these drugs are sold, often they will not be there. Or even they are there, they are regulated. Then at the market, people selling provision, just like he has mentioned. This has been the picture. But what has actually been the story from our data that we gathered? We gathered that data over a period of time, and we're able to sample over around 1,000 young people. And what we found in that research was that a little over 60% of these individuals were individuals who were supposed to be in school, were individuals who were supposed to be learning a skill. And this, we got to understand that they are actually involved in abusing one substance or the other. So that is to say that in our research, over 60% of the respondents have, appreciated the concept of substance abuse, and also indicated that these are things that they have either tried or have experimented before. And just like he mentioned, the availability, the accessibility, and the law enforcement challenges. So we also went further to find out what are even the very common substances that were being abused among these young people that we are talking about. And right. So in that research, we actually sampled about 7 substances. Top on the substance was shisha for us on that document. And also we came to realize that even in the shisha that they said they were taking was impregnated with other substances, one of them being tramadol. But tramadol was number 2 on the list of commonly abused substance among these young people that we engage. Then alcohol was the third one, the third substance that was being abused. Then the concept of marijuana, cocaine, and all of those things also came in. But cigarette was the least among the young people we sample. And that tells us that the substance abuse among the young people of today is becoming very sophisticated. Because they're telling you we are having a shisha party, and impregnated in this shisha pot is substances that you can't really imagine. What were the sources? In this research that we did, we're looking for where are the sources? Where do these young people get these substances from? Friends. And when you go to the ghettos, the solidarity level is very high. Somebody can go to the ghetto without even a Ghana cedi. That is 1 Ghana cedi. But this person can leave the ghetto intoxicated with a substance. Why? Because they are ready to share. And this sharing has been negative in the sense that if they were even sharing possible opportunities, that would be good. But they are rather ready to share the substance with you, even though you didn't come with money. So friends was, identified as number 1. And this also, even in our schools, they don't have the substance.
Primary or secondary schools? Yes,
this cut across, we had the basic school, senior high schools, and then at the university level. So it's a huge challenge. Then we also have people who also, scary in this data, substance abuse can lead individuals into antisocial behaviors. Stealing, which in our African cultural context, or even stealing is not a good thing. And this is to say that if a young person wants the substance, they are craving, he doesn't even know where to get it, then he's ready to break somebody's door, he's ready to either harm somebody and then to get the substance. So stealing was number 2 for the sources that they got it from. Then we tried again to find out what probably could have been the cause. What are the drivers? Surprisingly, parental issues. I have often mentioned this concept because this was one of the factors that came top among our young people. But I, as a parent, and engaging a lot of parents. Sometimes I want to mention this with a bit of some reservation, because I know a lot of parents that are doing very well, yet they have their young ones into these things. That tells us how powerful peer influence, how powerful the social media, how powerful curiosity play in this desire to get the substance. Then issues of media, according to them, because the media advertises and make substance abuse as if.
How? Sorry, you say media in a good way or in a bad way, Peter?
In a bad way. Some media houses, this particular substance, when you take it, the sort of energy you will get. When you go read the pharmaceutical composition, it doesn't really match up. People want to make money. And that was one of the things that came up. Then lack of discipline, accessibility, social pressure, and issues of mental health. So that feed into the factors. Then we're looking at, even beyond these factors, other motivating factors that could be pushing the younger people into substance abuse: peer pressure, curiosity, stress, boredom, were the things we found in that particular research. But we also know, and we tried as much as possible. I didn't want to present a picture that looked like, maybe I have read theories, but I was not trying to find out from the younger people, what are the effects of substance abuse that they, according to them, if they haven't known what substance abuse is, what are the effects? And these were some of the things that they mentioned. Top on the list was mental health challenges. So when you abuse substances for a very long time, they know it will lead to mental health challenges.
But the way you're explaining this, it's now so clear that there is widespread usage of drugs in Ghana now. How did the country arrive here, Peter? How?
Yes, I will say as a country, trying to speculate, and also to, because of my work in drug abuse prevention almost a decade now, I think it has to do with the porous natures of our borders. Our borders are very porous. Ghana is bordered to Burkina Faso, Ivory Coast, and Togo, and the borders are porous. Then, coupled with the porous natures of our borders is what I call the ineffective law enforcement. Ghana has very beautiful laws. Then the issues of unemployment among our young people, it could be one other challenge that I can envisage looking at what we have been doing. And then what I call the 3 A's approach: the accessibility, availability, and affordability. And then this one is a big one for me, what I call the weakened morality, where people want to make money at the expense of the well-being of others. This is not who we are, but these are the realities that we are getting today. People want to make money at all costs. And that they don't care what the outcome of that money making is for another person. And above all, I think the breakdown of our communal system of living. That is one thing that I think probably could have driven Ghana to this point that where we are now.
Right. Now, Maxwell, who do you think is not doing well? Is it parents, state actors, or religious leaders when we see the situation in terms of drugs in Ghana right now?
Thank you, Josie. It's actually hard to put the blame on someone's head, but the issue is that we have fine laws. This country is, if you look at the rules and regulations governing drugs, is so clear and perfect. But the problem is the drug manufacturers, I think, and also the importers of these drugs.
But Maxwell, look, these people are doing business. It's more like I don't know if you call it the Ghana National Breweries. In Zimbabwe, we call it Delta Zimbabwean breweries, so sell alcohol. That is the beers and all, right? It is your choice after 18 years to take alcohol or not, right? And these people are there to do business. It is a matter of your choice or the matter of people around you to help you, because we cannot stop people from doing business, right? And also the fact that some people now know that even the drugs you get from pharmacies, they are getting that effect of abusing those type of drugs. So these are choices. For us to say this is just my opinion. What I want you or Peter also to look at, should we say these people should stop manufacturing drugs? I'm talking of pharmaceutical drugs, especially that are being abused. We can't, because people need to be treated using these drugs.
No, but right. Don't just understand that they are supposed to, they are doing business, but it should be legal business. It should be businesses that, will not, even if it should be tolerated in one country, it should not be allowed in another country. So tramadol is not, but it is the abuse that we're talking about. And the abuse, the higher dosages are the ones that are smuggled in. But the right ones, 10 milligrams, 5 milligrams, 20 milligrams that are prescribed in hospitals for people to take, those ones come genuinely and they are given to doctors, they are given to pharmacists to sell. But these ones are higher doses. And the combinations that are involved in this thing is rather lethal, injurious. It can cause harm to you, which is where we are right now with it. I was talking to some of the reform addicts. He says, no, I don't blame the government for this. I blame the lack of parents and society, influential people in addressing this problem. So in his view, it is not about arresting smugglers. It's not about banning, confiscating them. It is about giving people literacy on the effects of these drugs so that they know the choices to make. But here is a case we do not have that much. We do not have systems that tackle the problem from infancy or from elementary education. Once the children are growing up, they know the problems, but they wait till the people who are 18, 20 and above and all that, they will not start tackling them, by which time they have tasted and know that drugs is like, you don't need to take multiple time before you get addicted, especially tramadol. The finding shows that if you take 1, 2, you could be addicted right from there.
Let me just ask also, Peter, what your opinion is with what Maxwell says, that the problem could also be with the manufacturers. I don't know if it's something that you also think could be the reason. Yes, definitely. But, when people need to do business, this is their line of business. Especially, I'm really just referring on the pharmaceutical drugs that are being abused.
What Maxwell said is right, but your positioning is also, that's it. People need to be in business, they need to fend for themselves. But what we need to do as a country is let our laws work. The Pharmacy Council's laws should work. And then who are those who are supposed to have access or custody of these substances? Like he mentioned, the kind of substance that is being used by the youth are not the ones that are prescribed in the hospitals. So that's where the problem is. So if the laws will work, we probably will have the prescription-only medication, and they will not lead us to this challenge that we are having. So I think that people need to do business, but as a country, we also need to, come to the point of saying that our laws must work and should deal with individuals who are handling substances that are not supposed to be in the general market.
Right. And you as a clinical psychologist, Peter, please paint how gloomy the picture is when it comes to addiction.
Thank you very much. I often will say that we are sitting on a time bomb. Time bomb in the sense that Ghana is a youthful population, a little over 30% of the Ghanaian population being youth. And so if this youthful group of individuals who are supposed to be the executives, the manufacturers, the business owners are already wasting their life as at this age, which we have already established that fact. What it means is that in the near future, our workforce will be challenging. Then the issues of psychological dependence, loss of employability skills, because individuals who are into these substances often do not bother about a skill, education, or whatever it is. And then issues of security. A lot of people have done work on peace, security, and often neglected substance abuse, because individuals in high level of substances are ready to take up any decision and can be influenced and can be radicalized. And so we need to pay attention. And we have seen that as professionals, I have seen that the daily cases are increasing. Substance abuse, mental health related challenges are increasing. So this is the picture. But I would say it's a time bomb we are sitting in as a country, and we need to do something about it. And we started fighting this drug prevention as far back as 2018, 2019. So it means that we need a collective fight to achieve this.
And Maxwell, let's get back now to the government, especially. Breaking addiction, from what Peter is saying, requires a lot of resources. How is the government responding to this, and how is the country performing?
For me, the country is not really doing enough in terms of rehabilitation. Around the country, especially in northern part of the country, we have challenges with rehabilitations. People who are addicts, families who want their children reformed, who want their addicts reformed, have to travel all the way to the central region of Ghana or in Accra to be able to access some of these, focused rehabilitation procedures. Other than that, I think many of the addicts are just left on their own. Some families would have to chain the individual, their patients, just because they cannot afford to be able to transport them this far.
Right. Whew, hearing this about Ghana is quite sad. But Peter, also, as we wrap up our discussion, your final word on how do we find a solution to this menace?
Finding a solution to a menace like this, which has been with us for a very long time, I think we need to go holistic. And we need to focus on certain areas of our life. First, the individual, the family, the community, the nation, and by extension, the business community need to get involved. But what do I mean by that? So in terms of the individual, see, sometimes when you engage these young people, you get to come to realize that for skills that they do not have, so even when the jobs are even available, they cannot even fill in, can be one of the challenges. So I would say that at the individual level, let's acquire a skill. Let's develop ourselves in terms of the young people who haven't gotten into the addiction phase and probably will be listening to us. These are the areas, and families should support the individuals to be able to. Then at the family level, I think, you see, we often pay little attention to a number of the challenges of children. And when a child goes through a lot of traumatic experiences without support, they can come to the conclusion that the solace can be in a substance, the solace can be in a bad group, the solace can be in a gang. And within these gangs, the use of substances. So the family will need to tighten or enhance its family bonds. That will be very helpful. Then at the communal level, we shouldn't leave this to only those individuals or families that are battling these challenges. We should come together as a community. And we have lost that, I would say, as a country, because it looks like we have become more individualistic in our living, more individualistic in our way of doing things. It's not like we used to be very communal. Yeah. And so if we can go back to our communal way of living, then at the nation level, I think law enforcement, securing our borders, and establishing facility with professionals to be able to manage individuals with these challenges.
Peter Mintir Amadu, a researcher and clinical psychologist in Tamale, also DW correspondent covering Northern Ghana, Maxwell Suuk. Many thanks for joining us. At the Africa Link podcast, we always look across the continent to see how the stories and issues we are dealing with play out or at times even overlap. A global law enforcement sweep targeting West African crime syndicates, including the notorious Black Axe, has led to hundreds of arrests, $3 million in asset seizures, and the dismantling of several international criminal networks. Operation Jackal 3 spanned 21 countries across 5 continents, focusing on cyber fraud and the syndicates behind it. In a related case, Swiss authorities seized cocaine of 45,000 euros in cash and arrested several suspects tied to West African gangs. Now, with Interpol support, real-time data helped identify criminals, offering hope for stronger international collaboration in the fight against drug trafficking in West Africa. That's it for this edition of Africa Link. Remember, you are not just a listener, but a part of our community, and your engagement can shape the direction of our discussions. We value your insights and encourage you to share your thoughts with us. You can find all of the Africa Link podcast episodes on Spotify and Apple or wherever you get your podcasts from. This episode was co-produced and edited by Isaac Mugabi. My name is Josephine Mahachi. Thanks for listening. Until the next one, it's bye for now.